I'm Mark Bittman for Edible Education 101, and I'm here with Clara Sieg from Revolution Ventures, which funds early stage consumer startups. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Nice to be here.
Good. So the fundamental question, obviously, and you're a young venture capitalist, is how do young people looking to relate to venture capitalists bring you their ideas, think about startups, and get them funded? We'll take them one at a time, actually. How would a young would-be entrepreneur start thinking about ideas in the food space?
I think when you think about the food space generally, it's a $5 trillion market. There are a lot of different segments that have yet to be disrupted, partly because it's heavily regulated in some instances, and partly because you can't just throw tech at the problem. So a lot of the Valley startups didn't initially attack it because it's a little bit of a harder problem to solve. There are a lot of pieces to it.
You can't just throw tech at it because you're talking about real
Stuff that we eat.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's bridging the gap between offline and online to make things more efficient. When we think about the market generally, we focus on three different pieces of it. One, the production and manufacturing of food. Two, the distribution and logistics piece of it. And then three, touching consumers and how they consume the food and how it gets to them. And all three, you need very different approaches to attacking the spaces that you're trying to disrupt.
So the key is to sort of study how things work and then try to imagine how they might work otherwise.
Yeah, I think when you look at the different pieces of the value chain, there are different issues with all of them. If you just think about the logistics and distribution piece, there are a lot of different agents and middlemen layers in it, and I think in a lot of industries you've seen those disrupted with technology. I think in that piece of it, there's opportunity to change that with tech. But when you think about building a consumer brand that delivers food directly to consumers that they're going to eat and that they just have to like and be more convenient, it's not just a tech problem.
Right. I mean, when we see successful tech solutions like Uber is the sort of classic one, it always seems quite obvious in retrospect, but the food space seems a little more complex.
Yeah.
People 5 years ago, I think, when people were talking about startups in the food world, they often thought about, we're going to invent some tech food, like Soylent, for example,
yeah.
or build better meat out of plant-based stuff that's more like meat using tech, or just mayo. Now people are doing what seem to be really less techy, kind of, for want of a better word, clunkier startups. I mean, it's really bricks and mortar, or it's like doing delivery better,
yeah.
or it's...
I don't know about clunkier, but I think there's a return to reason where the future of food is always going to be food. It's not going to be a replacement. Food has certain dynamics in our culture that bring together family, that bring together people, that evoke specific joys that you can't replace with tech, and you can't replace with a powder that substitutes the taste and experience of food for nutrition. So it's always going to be some sort of a combination. And I think going back to the roots of how do you make something more convenient but still delicious, nutritious, and a better alternative for consumers is where you'll see the real innovation.
It's, you could be burned at the stake for saying some of those things. They're so anti-tech. Is there, we're going to talk with Nick Jamet from Sweetgreen, which is, I've said for a long time, what is fast food 2.0, and I'm sure Nick doesn't like it if I say fast food, but Sweetgreen is sort of a next level, next gen fast food, a place where you can go and really all the options are are good. So
Well,
whatever.
fast food has historically had a really negative connotation, but I think in this day and age, especially with the likes of Sweetgreen, you have healthy fast food. So it's really just about convenience, but still providing nutritious and healthy alternatives.
Do you see more of that stuff coming down the pike?
Yeah, absolutely. We're investors in Revolution Foods as well, and a company called Kava, and they both provide healthier options that are more convenient for consumers. You've seen a huge influx of capital go into food tech generally in the past 2 years, most on the delivery and logistics side. But there are a lot of consumer brands that focus on delivering better options, but also in a branded way that the millennial segment can sort of relate to in a more natural way.
So if I'm graduating Cal, either as an undergraduate or as a business major, and I have an idea, and this isn't as crazy as it sounds, right? Because this stuff is happening. What am I supposed to do to get started? Should I be bootstrapping? Should I be kickstarting? Should I be trying to find somebody like you? Should I be begging my friends and family for money? What's my first step?
I think the common theme with founding companies is that there is no specific cookie cutter way to do it. If it's a burning passion that you've had for a long time and you've been working on it, and you go try and do other things and you keep coming back to that problem that you want to solve, that you see every day in your life, and that you have a better version of how to attack the problem than anybody else, pursue it. The downside is that a year from now you have to go to a corporate job.
Right.
But I think trying to get some initial traction and proving out that it's not just an idea that you have, but that other people relate to the problem, and that the way that you're solving it is something that people embrace and are excited about. Those are the early seeds of good traction, and then building a business with unit economics that makes sense around it. I think that's part of the failures in food that we've seen, at least in the dot-com bubble and some of them more recently, where the unit economics just don't make sense and you can't build a real business around them, is part of the reason that you've seen the cycles in food investment and not. So focusing on getting revenue, but also a sustainable, profitable business makes sense.
Unit economics means at some point you see a way to actually make money on each of the things that you sell.
Yeah, I think this past wave has been full of a lot of companies that have raised money on GMV. On top line gross volume coming through the system, but that doesn't equate to a profitable business at the end of the day.
There is this kind of theme or theory that you sometimes hear that doesn't matter as much as building a customer. First, let's build a customer base, then we'll figure out unit economics.
Yeah.
And you hear that a lot.
Yeah, I think we take a little bit more of a conservative approach at Revolution. We only made one new investment last year out of our venture fund because we viewed the markets as really overheated. And when you have those sorts of overheated environments, you can tend to focus on extreme top line growth and not flowing down through the business to make sure that you're building something that will be an enduring business. And I think this next cycle you're going to see a lot of the return to fundamentals when you're investing in companies.
Any other words of wisdom to young would-be food entrepreneurs?
It's a massive market. There's a ton of opportunity, and there are a lot of legacy issues with it. So if you're excited about it, try and build something.
Great. Thanks, Clara.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Mark Bittman for Edible Education 101, and I've been speaking with Clara Sieg.